Hello everyone, this is part 38 of What If Naruto Was in Rosario Vampire, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. It was sunset in the secret world of the goblins. The sky was turning a magnificent deep purple. In a desolate corner of this dark world lay Castle Acacia. It was a massive and imposing structure carved of granite and built atop a lonely cliff overlooking the sea. The iron gates were open and the vast courtyard was ready. 60 or so seats had been placed to accommodate the wedding party and the guests. A short distance away tables were laid out with wines, beers, sake, and all sorts of liquor. There were vast chests of ice containing transfusion packs with the blood of different races such as succubi, ogre, or lamia. Most of it was human blood, of course, but there was something to suit almost every taste. A band of dark elves readied their instruments to play the bridal march and then to play for the dances which would follow. Most of the guests had already arrived and been seated. When the sun sank beneath the horizon, it would be night and the ceremony would begin. Lord Acacia was standing by the gates, playing the role of host. As each guest arrived, he personally welcomed them to his home. Along with being the host and the father of the bride, he would also be the one to actually perform the ceremony. He was pleased to see almost everyone expected had come. The refreshments were all in order and the reception area made ready. The bride and groom were waiting in their respective rooms for the signal to come down. From the happy conversation coming from the guests, it was clear everyone was eager to have the festivities begin. Thus far things were going exactly as planned. He was pleased. Before the gates, black flames momentarily appeared and then vanished. There before him was a figure he had not really been expecting to see today. But he was glad to see her. She was dressed in a formal gown of pink and white and was every bit as beautiful as he remembered. She approached him with a slow and stately gait, her green eyes locked on his red ones. As she came up to him, he gave her a genuine smile and took her right hand in his. "It is good to see you again, Mai." He placed a soft kiss upon her hand. "I was beginning to think you would not come. I would never miss such an important event in my baby's life," she said. "Can we talk in private for a bit?" He frowned slightly but still nodded. "Certainly, though I suspect I know what it is you wish to discuss." He extended his arm to her and together they walked through the courtyard towards the castle itself. They took a wide route to avoid the guests and prying ears. Looking at the beautiful woman who was still his wife, Lord Acacia grinned wistfully. "It really is very good to see you again, Mai." She looked over at him in surprise. "Really? Why do you sound so surprised? I never wanted you to leave, that was your choice." "You left me no choice," she said with a trace of bitterness in her voice. "You could have stayed," he insisted, "and watched as you filled our daughter and the other girls with your beliefs." "All I have ever tried to do is make them strong," he said. "I only wanted them to be able to find their proper places. You taught them to look down on all those not of our race. You taught them to be suspicious and untrusting. I taught them to rely only on themselves and their own strengths," he said firmly. "The world does not belong to the weak. It belongs only to the strong. That is as true here as on the human world. Perhaps you find that truth a little bitter. Personally, I prefer it to any sort of lie, no matter how sweet. All I wanted was for them to treat others with respect and tolerance and for them to be able to give and receive love." He snorted. "Love is nothing but a comforting illusion." She looked at him sadly. "I loved you, once." Her words left him feeling unhappy. She really was a dear woman and a very strong vampire. But she was young, she still didn't understand just how cruel people could be. "I still care for you, Mai," he said quietly. "Just as I care for Mocha and all my children. But I will not pretend that those feelings are anything more than what they are." She shook her head. "You say you care for your children, but look what your efforts have done to them." Mocha was miserable and lonely. Cocoa doesn't know how to relate to anyone except through fighting. Karua is emotionally unstable, smiling and laughing one moment then crying the next as she becomes a cold-hearted cur. As for Ria, "Do not mention Ria," he said stiffly. Why not? She asked pointedly. Certainly she is the strongest of the four. I would think you would be very proud of her. What happened to her was never my intent. I never meant for her to become so cruel. He said defensively. But how can you be surprised? You never showed any of them affection, you never taught them how to love or how to trust, not even with each other. You did everything you could to make them hard. That's right, I did. Soft things easily, hard things can endure. I wanted my children to be survivors. I never wanted them to be weak. Love is not weakness, she said. He gave her a look that was a bit affectionate. Still so young and naive. Of course it is. Just look at yourself. The moment things became too difficult you ran away, and Mocha did the very same thing. Do you imagine I would ever run away? From anything? He shook his head in mild rebuke. All love does is make one vulnerable in all sorts of ways. Don't you care for Mocha's happiness at all? She asked. I do want her to be happy, he admitted. But first she must fulfill her duties to this family and to our race. She is welcome to find whatever happiness she can after doing what is required of her. How can she be happy in a loveless marriage? You were, he pointed out. At least for a time. They had come to the castle entrance. Why don't you go ahead and tell Mocha to come down? I'm sure she'd be happy to see you. As he turned to go, she grabbed a hold of his arm. Husband, she said fervently. Please, I beg you, stop this. Don't force Mocha into this. If you'll call off the wedding, I'll come back to live with you again. Don't be ridiculous, he shook off her hold. Now at least try and remember that you are a vampire and stop behaving like such a weakling. He strode off quickly to keep her from making a scene. She watched him go. You are wrong, husband. When it comes to my daughter, I can be every bit as ruthless as you. She hurried into the castle and headed for her daughter's room. XXXXXXXXXX. She was in her room staring into the mirror. Her blood-red wedding dress was made of the finest silk and seemed to almost glow in the room's light. Father had it especially made for her. It was one more expensive gift she wished he'd never given her. She was not alone in her room. Her two sisters would be her bridesmaids and were dressed in their own gowns of silver and black. I'm sorry, Neeson, Cocoa said quietly. Maybe it won't be so bad. She knew her beautiful and powerful sister was miserable. What's so bad? Karua said cheerfully. She looks so beautiful. Like a doll come to life. Everyone will look at her and be so jealous. And then she'll have to go and live with that Barker Kento. Cocoa said. Who's a Barker? The door to Mocha's room swung open and Kento stepped inside smiling gleefully. Whatever else people might say, no one could deny that at least he was handsome. He was slightly taller than Mocha with broad shoulders and a muscular body. He was dressed in a formal black and white suit. He had thick black hair that ran all the way down his chin. His red eyes looked at his bride with raw hunger. She however deliberately kept her back to him. What are you doing here, Barker? Cocoa demanded angrily. Oh, I just wanted to get a little preview of my beautiful wife in her lovely dress. Kento said, his eyes never leaving Mocha. Oh, how sweet. Karua gushed and giggled. Kento focused one of his dazzling smiles at the older sister. Could I have a few minutes alone with my blushing bride? Cocoa puffed up like a toad and was about to tell him to get out when Karua grabbed her by the arm. That is so romantic. Come on, little sister, let's leave the two lovebirds alone. She left the room dragging Cocoa along. Kento chuckled. I like your older sister, she's really very amusing. Perhaps you should marry her instead then, Mocha said dryly. I'm sure she would give you more smiles and laughter than I will. At least until you did something to make her cry, then she would probably K you. Mocha finally turned away from the mirror so that she was facing him. You know the humans have a custom that says if the groom sees the bride in her wedding dress prior to the ceremony there will be bad fortune. Good thing we're not human then. What do you want? Mocha said in annoyance. Oh, I just wanted to let you know that I haven't forgotten how you humiliated me in front of your father. He said smoothly. I plan on spending the whole night teaching you your place. I plan on making you a proper and obedient little wife. She stared back at him coldly. If you think you can control me, you are sadly mistaken. Better monsters than you have tried and failed. Oh, but I have one thing all those others didn't. I have your father's blessing. He intends for you to behave like a proper wife and I'll settle for nothing less. My father intends for me to bear your children, Mocha reminded him. As far as that goes, I will shut my eyes and suffer it. But if you expect me to be your servant, you are an even bigger fool than I ever imagined. His smile thinned and he took a step towards her. Show me proper respect, woman, or you'll regret it. If you want my respect, then try and earn it. She stood her ground and looked at him disdainfully. As your husband, you have to respect me. He took another step towards her. No, I have to sleep with you. Respect has nothing to do with it. Another step put him right in front of her. She defiantly looked him in the eye with undisguised contempt. He couldn't stand it and felt anger building in him. Lord Acacia had honored him with this marriage. He would not have her making him look like a fool. Listen to me, woman. The door to the room suddenly opened and a lady in a pink and white dress entered. Her hair was pink and her eyes red. She held a Rosario in her hand. Kento couldn't help but notice the powerful demonic aura that surrounded her. Pardon me, the woman said in a sweet voice, but it is almost time for the ceremony to begin. The two of you should get down to the courtyard. Kento frowned at her. Leave us. I still have some things to say to my bride. We'll be down in a few minutes. In response, she moved like a blur and grabbed a hold of his ear. Ow, he yelped. For a moment he thought she was about to it clean off. He was compelled to follow as she dragged him by the ear to the door. Ow, let go of me. Who the hell are you? I am Mocha's mother, she replied pleasantly. And I don't care for people who threaten my baby. You had best keep that in mind. She opened up the door and finally let go of him. He blushed with embarrassment, both at having his new mother-in-law overhearing what he'd said and at the fact that he'd just been defeated by another woman. Trying to retrieve the situation, he gave her a bright smile and turned on the charm. Please forgive my rudeness, Carson. She returned his smile with one of her own. No, I don't think I will, she said agreeably. And if you ever call me Carson again, I really will that ear off. She slammed the door in his face. Mother, Mocha ran up to her and hugged her. Mother, what are you doing here? Mai embraced her daughter and held her close. How could I not come? I knew you would need me, for a shoulder to cry on if nothing else. Mocha slowly let go of her and gave her a brave smile. I won't cry, mother, I've accepted my fate. I'll do what's required of me without tears or complaints. My dear child, Mai gently touched her daughter's face. Perhaps things are not as hopeless as you believe. But they are, Mocha said stoically. Father will never change his mind. Well then, we'll just have to make him change his mind, won't we? But how can we do that? Mocha wanted to believe there was some way out of this. You'll have to wait and see, dear, she gently took her daughter's hand. But it's time now. Let's go out to the courtyard. XXXXXXXXXXX. Beyond the outer wall and the gate, black flames appeared as an uninvited guest arrived. The ceremony was just beginning and so no one had noticed. Standing outside the enormous castle, he could hear music start to play. He headed towards the open gate. Invited or not, he was about to make his presence known. Kento approached his soon-to-be father-in-law and smiled graciously at him. Lord Acacia looked past him to the castle entrance and frowned slightly. We are about to begin. Where is Mocha? She is speaking with her mother, Kento said smoothly. I am sure she will be down momentarily, father. What did you say? Lord Acacia replied sharply. I said she should be down shortly, fa. Do not call me father, the elder vampire sneered at him. Even after you marry my daughter, you will refer to me as Lord Acacia. You will never refer to me as father or by any other title that suggests a familiarity or trust between us. I do not like or respect you, Kento, you are a vain and shallow idiot. Kento stared at the man in open shock. Then why did you ask me to marry your daughter? Because despite your many faults you at least have a good bit of strength. You should be able to give my daughter strong children. For that, and that alone, I will tolerate you and permit you to enter this family. But never think you are anything more to me. Know your place, boy. When the elder vampire turned away from him, Kento quickly fled. It seemed both his in-laws were less than happy with him. XXXXXXXXXX. Mocha and her mother appeared only a few minutes later. Mai gave her daughter a last kiss on the cheek and a few words of encouragement before going to take her seat. Mocha's father looked to her and nodded his approval. He was standing at the head of the aisle before all the guests ready to begin. She took a deep breath and screwed on a tranquil face. I will not cry or make a scene. What must be, I will be strong and bear this burden. Calmly she walked to the back of the aisle where Kento and her sisters already waited. At least I have known true love, even if only for a short while. How many never even have that much? Every eye watched as she took the spot beside Kento and he held out his arm to her. She placed one hand on it and steeled herself. Standing a few feet behind her, Kokoa looked miserable while Karua wore a wide smile and threatened to burst out into laughter at any moment. Every eye was focused on them and more than a few of the guests were struck by what a stunning couple they made. Smiling for one and all to see, Kento whispered to her, "You belong to me now." Turning a serene face to him, she whispered back, "Sorry, but I already belong to someone else." At a signal from Lord Acacia, the band started to play the march. The two of them began the slow walk down the aisle. Mocha wondered if anyone else thought the familiar tune sounded especially mournful. The two of them came to the head of the aisle and halted. Lord Acacia smiled. "Honored guests and family," he called out, "let us join these two in lasting union." The ceremony had finally begun. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto heard the music begin to play. "I guess I'm right on time." He approached the open gate expecting to be challenged, or at least noticed. But there was no one there. So he simply walked through the gate and into a vast courtyard surrounded by the outer wall. Looking at the scene before him, he was struck by how oddly familiar it all seemed. A band was playing, there were tables ready for a feast, flowers decorated the grounds, they were all black, silver, and red, there were guests seated in little folding chairs, and he even thought some of the women in the audience were crying. His eyes, however, focused on the three people standing before everyone else. One of them had on a red dress. He took a deep breath and was able to pick out her scent from the dozens others. Mocha-chan. He began to approach her. XXXXXXXXXX. As her father continued to drone on, Mocha stopped listening. At some point Kento would say, "I do," and then she would too, and it would be official. She was thinking of Naruto and their ceremony. It had been just the two of them being married by a simple monk in a little country shrine. It could not have been more of a contrast to today. She'd been so unbelievably happy to have married him. She'd had no idea what the future held in store, but it hadn't mattered because she'd known that they would always be together. She wanted desperately to be with him now. In fact, she wanted it so badly she was even imagining that she could smell his scent. It even seemed very strong. For if one believes in commitment, one must set aside all other things, Lord Acacia continued. To stand together through all hardships and... Excuse me. A loud voice rang out. But when are you getting to the part about if anyone objects? That's sort of the only part I'm waiting for. Lord Acacia cut off and suddenly looked up. He had been concentrating on the ceremony and had not noticed the new arrival. He was not the only one. Everyone turned in their seats to stare at the person who had dared to interrupt. He was standing at the very back of the aisle, casually smiling back. He had spiky platinum blonde hair and red eyes. He was dressed all in black in what looked like work clothes with pouches and various tools attached. Compared to the elegance that surrounded him, his appearance was jarring. But looking at him, the crowd seemed able to sense something else was well. His demonic aura was in check and certainly his posture did not seem threatening. Yet somehow they could tell that there was power hidden inside this one. They instinctively leaned away from him and remained silent as they watched to see what would happen next. The second Mocha saw him, she gasped. Her bridal bouquet slipped through her fingers and fell to the ground unnoticed. He was really here, he had really come for her. Their eyes met and instinct took over. "Idiot!" She screamed and ran to him. "Idiot, idiot, idiot, I told you not to come here!" She screamed furiously. Seeing Mocha running at him with such fury, Naruto suddenly looked confused, and a little scared. But still lying pinned beneath her, Naruto was giving her one of his huge smiles. "So, did you miss me? You really are an idiot." She tried to sound angry but couldn't manage it at all. Her words sounded loving instead. "Just so long as I'm your idiot." He possessively pulled her back down and began kissing her some more. "Little sister," Karua yelled out. "You're being naughty with the wrong boy." Karua's shout snapped them out of their moment and back to reality. They scrambled back up to their feet. Meanwhile, Lord Acacia and Kento had watched the scene along with everyone else. Both of them caught so off guard as to not know what to do. Not surprisingly, it was Lord Akashia who snapped out of it first. He turned to Kento. Well. Huh. Kento looked at him confused. Another man is molesting your bride, he said patiently, trying to hold his wrath in check. Are you just going to stand there and watch? With an embarrassed flush he quickly nodded. I'll deal with him. Kento stormed down the aisle ready to do all sorts of violence. All he'd wanted was to be treated with respect. That was all. Instead he had been insulted by Kokoa, spurned by Mocha, humiliated by his mother-in-law, belittled by his father-in-law, and now finally some ignorant fool had just turned him into a laughing stock. It was too much and someone was going to have to pay. He unleashed a massive weight of cur intent at the blonde stranger, hoping to make him run away. Instead he seemed to hardly notice. The stranger was standing next to his bride with an arm DRD protectively around her. He was smiling as he approached and seemed to not have a care in the world. All that only made Kento even more furious. You! Kento screamed. Just who the hell do you think you are? Naruto smiled at him coldly. I think I'm Mocha's husband. Now who the F are you? I am Mocha's husband, or at least I will be once the ceremony is over. Is that a fact? Naruto said pleasantly. That's right, Kento said furiously. She belongs to me. Whoever you are, it doesn't matter, she can only have one husband. I have to say I'm in agreement with you there. He glanced at Mocha. Mocha-chan, do you mind if I K this guy? She looked quite happy. Please do, Naruto-kun. Kento was about to say something but never got the chance. Naruto's hand latched onto his tea and he could no longer breathe. He tried to pull free but could not move an inch. As he began to claw at Naruto's arm, he was forced to watch as Naruto unleashed all of his power. The demonic aura he had so carefully kept in check spilled out of him, its force so great it physically manifested into a living cloak. Before Kento's horrified eyes he saw the aura take on the form of a fox with 8 swinging about. Dimly Kento heard the sudden screams coming from the guests and they saw and felt this unbelievable power. At that point Kento would gladly have apologized if only he could have. The very last thing he saw was a blinding white light. That was followed by a sense of heat and a fraction of a second of pain. Nothing followed after that. XXXXXXXXXXX. Before his disbelieving eyes, Lord Akashia saw all his carefully laid plans being destroyed. It had taken years to arrange this marriage and less than 2 minutes for it to be completely ruined. He saw Kento burned alive and reduced to nothing but ash. His guests were all screaming and quickly vanishing as they teleported away. The drow and his goblin servants were running for their lives. What should have been a beautiful and inspiring ceremony had been turned into a disaster with seeming ease thanks to one man. And that man was standing there amidst this panic, smiling at him, surrounded by his, admittedly, vast power, as though he had actually won something. Daddy! Daddy! Lord Akashia turned to see his daughter Karua looking upset and on the verge of tears. Daddy, everything is ruined. The party is ruined. He turned to her and placed a soothing hand on her shoulder. I know, dear, but please don't be upset and don't cry. I would rather not have to render you unconscious. She nodded and seemed to regain some of her cheerfulness. Will you punish the bad man who ruined everything, Daddy? Oh yes, he told her with certainty. I will certainly punish him. Is that really necessary, husband? Mai came up to him. He looked at his wife disbelieving. He just killed Mocha's fiancé and sent all my guests fleeing. His actions are a direct insult to me. He is Mocha's husband, her real husband. Mai said desperately. He only did what he had to be with her. What he did was out of love for our daughter. He looked at her angrily. One more reason not to have anything to do with love then. Stepping over fallen chairs and other debris, Lord Akashia headed towards Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto watched calmly as the other man approached. Naruto, Mocha said urgently. No matter what has happened, he is still my father. He didn't like hearing that. The man had had her KPED after all and nearly forced her to marry someone else. But he gave her a grudging nod. I understand. As her father approached, Mocha stood in front of her husband to get between the two. Father, please stop. Please don't do anything to the man I love. Step aside, Mocha. Her father came to a halt. But father, you can see how powerful he is. You have to see that he can be the on to give me the strong children you want. That does not matter, Lord Akashia said coldly. No matter how strong he is or what form he may take, he remains a weak, treacherous human in his heart and mind. I will not have a human fathering my trueborn daughter's children. Naruto began to laugh sourly. It figures, for years I had people hate me because they thought I was a demon. Now I'm hated for being human. I really can't catch a break. Do you think this is funny? Lord Akashia demanded. No, Naruto answered. Losing Mocha was never funny, not even for a second. Naruto stared him down. All I want is to be with your daughter. I love her with everything I have and she loves me. I promise I will always protect her and take care of her. Please just let us go, and I give you my solemn word I will hold no grudge against you. I will forgive what you have done. Lord Akashia's mouth dropped in amazement. You are going to forgive me? He shook his head. Where does such arrogance come from? You know, maybe you shouldn't be the one trying to talk so tough. Naruto snapped back. Everyone has told me how scary you are, but you don't seem like very much to me. Mocha turned back to send him an alarmed look. Naruto, please don't say that. Lord Akashia smiled. Hey, so is that what you think? Would you like to see something scary? He placed a hand upon his gold Rosario. It has been 300 years since I have fought anyone with my full strength. Come on, boy, I'll show you your place. Father, no. Mocha cried out. Lord Akashia pulled off the Rosario with a tiny clink and let it fall to the ground. That was when the real fight began. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.